In 2004, my girlfriend and I decided that it would be fun to rent a cabin at a lake for a weekend, a real secluded spot. She was so excited to stay in this crappy little cabin because it had a fireplace, and she had some pent-up aggression from when her parents divorced and sold the house with the fireplace when she was a kid. I digress. When we got to the cabin, we unloaded our stuff and I brought in some bundled firewood for the fireplace. She begged and pleaded me to start the fire, but being as it was about 4 p.m. I refused and suggested that we go fishing instead, promising that not only would I build a fire later, but we could make s'mores inside. She agreed, but made me unbundle the wood and set up the fireplace, so when it was time all I had to do was light it. Fine. In the process of unbundling the wood, a freaking milk snake, Google it, terrifying, but not venomous, neither of us knew this, slithered out of the bundle, onto the floor and into a corner of the living room. She is mortified, I am terrified. We both run screaming out of the cabin to the dock, and I called the rental people and left a OMFG there's a goddamn killer snake trying to kill us message on the machine. My girl was a mess, so I suggested we go out on the boat for a bit to calm down. I started to walk to the cabin to close the door and she told me I wasn't going in there, so obviously, I wasn't going in there. We went out on the boat for about an hour, and when we came back I saw that the screen door had been shut. Ah, thank you, maintenance man. I built the fire as promised, and we sat in front of it telling each other horror stories. All of a sudden I heard a strange noise coming from the direction of the bathroom. It sounded like the raptors from Jurassic Park walking. I immediately figured that Demon Snake had grown some legs and was waiting to kill me, but I had enough of that bastard, so I grabbed a blanket and that fire poker that looks like half of the Saints logo. Game plan: throw blanket on Snake Beast, beat it to death with pointy piece of iron. As I walked down the hallway, I saw a very large animal being illuminated only by the flickering flames in the other room. Before I could do anything, this demon beast shot out of the bathroom and charged towards me. I ran into the living room, and as I turned around I noticed it was not a demon, but a giant male turkey, all puffed out and aggressive. He was charging around the room, making terrifying noises and scaring the hell out of me and the lady. I started swinging for the fences with the iron stabber and hit it a few times in the body, which did not make it too happy. It charged me again, and I swung that iron rod like my life depended on it. The pointy part on the side hit the turkey in the head and killed it instantly. I threw the turkey in the bed of my truck, got in, and drove to the rental office. When I got there I told them the story, and thanked them for getting rid of the snake, which the maintenance guy seemed confused about, gave him the turkey, and went on my way. The next day the maintenance guy called me and let me know that he had just heard my message, and that no one took care of the snake, but his brother had found the snake in the turkey's belly while cleaning it. So turkeys eat snakes, and now you know. Late nights at Walmart had their own peculiar aura. The store's emptiness, the quiet hum of the cooling units, and the distant hum of the highway combined to create an unsettling atmosphere. But I needed the job, and my shift wasn't ending until I restocked the shelves and tidied up. As I took my 15-minute break, I stood outside getting some fresh air. There was a regular stray dog that would always be lingering around the area. I'd actually gotten into the habit of throwing him whatever scraps I could muster up from inside. I started to make my way in and I noticed a man in his 40s pacing near the entrance. His eyes darted around, as if searching for someone. As I passed by, he looked at me, his gaze unnerving. "Hey, could you help me?" he called out, his voice almost too friendly. I hesitated, my instincts urging caution. "Just need a hand loading a couple of things into my truck," he continued, motioning to the exit. Despite my unease, I agreed, thinking it was a straightforward favor. As we reached the entrance, I noticed that his truck was parked in the darkest corner of the parking lot. My heart pounded. This felt wrong, but it was company policy to help people carry things to their car. He gestured to a couple of boxes in the bed of the truck. "Could you just hand me those?" he asked. My fingers twitched with unease, my gut telling me something was off. But I tried to push the thoughts aside and focused on helping. Just as I reached out to grab a box, a shiver ran down my spine. I heard the faintest whisper behind me, the rustling of fabric. It was the sound of movement, of someone stepping out from the shadows. Panic surged through me, and I glanced back. And that's when I saw them, 2 more men, emerging from the darkness, their faces obscured by shadows. My heart raced, my body tensing, and I dropped the box instinctively. My mind screamed at me to run, to get back inside the store, to safety. I turned to bolt, but the man in front of me grabbed my arm, his grip like a vice. "Where do you think you're going?" he sneered, his friendly demeanor now replaced with a menacing grin. Adrenaline surged through me, and I fought to break free. The men were closing in, their intentions unmistakable. I struggled, my heart pounding in my chest, my thoughts a jumbled mess. And then, out of nowhere, a barrage of barks came from the bushes. It was the stray dog that I'd always see around the parking lot. It lunged at the man who had my arm and latched right onto him. I felt so relieved and shocked that I remember I actually let out a smile and a slight giggle. It's weird, but I vividly remember the massive emotional shift from sheer terror to absolute relief when that dog came running out. The grip on my arm loosened, and I wrenched myself free, stumbling back. I started sprinting back to the store, followed only by the sound of the growling, barking, and moans of pain from the man. At this point, my coworker came running out to check on me. I could see the men getting into the truck and driving towards us as I told him what happened. "Get lost," my coworker growled, his voice full of authority. The men hesitated for a moment longer before retreating, disappearing into the darkness. My coworker turned to me, clearly concerned for me. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, my heart still racing, my mind was still racing, and I was on an adrenaline high. That's when the dog ran over, peaceful as ever, wagging his tail and pushing himself into my legs. I gave him the biggest hug and told him how much of a good boy he was. My coworker and I watched as the men disappeared into the night. "We need to call the police," he said firmly, his eyes focused on where the men had vanished. We retreated back into the store and dialed 911. Within minutes, the police arrived, and I recounted the chilling encounter to them. They assured us they would patrol the area and keep an eye out for any suspicious activity. The dog stayed with me the whole time as the police took our statements. We had narrowly escaped a potentially dangerous situation, and it was a sobering reminder of the risks that came with late-night shifts. In the days that followed, news spread about a group of individuals attempting to lure unsuspecting victims into their trap. The police were investigating, and I felt a mix of relief and gratitude that my new best friend had come to my rescue. Late nights at Walmart would never be the same for me. The unsettling atmosphere was now a haunting reminder of the night I barely escaped danger. There's a small update in the comments for Story 2 that I didn't want to include in the video. A few years back, while I was doing any work I could get, I took up this gig at the 24/7 Walmart. It was a bit more rundown than your typical Walmart. Dimly lit aisles, flickering fluorescent lights, and an eeriness that only an empty Walmart at 3 in the morning can provide. I'm stocking shelves in the cereal aisle, just trying to keep myself awake with the monotonous routine. And then, out of nowhere, this guy saunters in. He's tall. I mean basketball player tall, with long strides that make him seem like he's on some sort of mission. There's hardly anyone around, and this dude's pacing down the aisles like he owns the place. Kind of weird, but not out of the ordinary Walmart weird. Just a late-night shopper with a peculiar vibe. I'm busy stacking cereal boxes when I catch sight of him again. He's standing at the end of the aisle staring at me with this grin that could send shivers down your spine. The lighting is wonky, casting these creepy shadows that don't help my nerves. Before I can even process what's happening, he's right there, right in front of me. Close enough that I can smell the alcohol on his breath. He shoots me this look like he's got the juiciest secret in the world, and then he says,
"I've done something very naughty.
I try to laugh it off, brush it away with a nervous chuckle. But he's not having it. He keeps staring, that grin still plastered on his face. It's late, it's quiet, and the place is kind of creepy already. But this guy, he's turned it up to 10. He starts following me. Aisle after aisle. Every time I turn around, there he is, watching with that stupid smile. It's like he's playing a twisted game of hide and seek, and I'm not even a player. More like the unwilling target. I try to get on with my work, but I can feel his eyes on me like they're drilling holes into my back. Then, out of nowhere, he starts humming this tune. It's faint, just under his breath, but it's off-putting as hell. I can't put my finger on where I've heard it before, but it's that famously creepy whistling song. I decide to take a breather and head to the break room. Maybe I can shake him off and catch a few moments of normalcy. My coworker's in there and we're making small talk about assignments and exams, trying to keep things light. But the whole time, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. And guess what? I was right. I spot him at the entrance to the break room, just standing there, staring right at me. I freeze and I swear the room got colder in that moment. I point him out to my coworker, and when he turns around, the guy's vanished. I glance at my coworker. I couldn't read his expression. I asked him, "Did you see that?" He looks at me. The confusion is obvious in his eyes. See what? Clearly, he saw nothing. I realized that he missed the entire encounter. It was only me who saw him. I run my fingers through my hair, feeling a mixture of paranoia and frustration. "Never mind," I mutter, dismissing the topic. Maybe I'm just letting my imagination get the best of me. It was late and I had not slept properly in days. My coworker's not as intrigued as I am. He's focused on the task at hand, more interested in getting his work done than delving into whatever nonsense I was talking about. We head back to our posts and I'm still rattled. I can't shake the image of that guy's grin. Hours pass and I try my best to concentrate on my tasks, but the unease is a constant presence in the back of my mind. I keep glancing around, half expecting him to reappear. That creepy grin plastered on his face. And then, out of nowhere, he's back. My heart skips a beat and my hands tremble. It's like a nightmare come true. He's standing there, that same grin on his face. My breath catches in my throat. Before I can even react, he's sprinting towards me, his steps quick and purposeful. Panic surges through me and I freeze. What does he want? My mind races, but my body is paralyzed. He grabs me and easily picks me up. He starts shaking me and shouting in my face. And then, as if from a distance, I hear a shout. My coworker's voice cuts through the fear. "Hey, get off her." He's running towards us, his footsteps echoing in the aisle. The guy releases his grip on me, his attention shifting to my coworker. And in that split second, I find my voice. I scream as loud as I can and start beating on him. My coworker arrives, his presence enough to make the guy hesitate. He turns and bolts, disappearing down the aisle. I'm left shaking, my heart pounding. My coworker rushes to my side. He looks seriously concerned. "Are you okay?" he asks me. I nod. I'm completely out of breath from the screaming. We're both shaken, both trying to make sense of the madness that just unfolded. We call the police, and as we wait for them to arrive, I can't help but replay the encounter in my mind. What was that guy's deal? Why would he attack me? The police arrive and we recount the bizarre events. They search the area, but the guy is long gone. I tell him what happened and try to describe just how creepy and weird he was, and I mention that he said he'd done something naughty that night. Suddenly there's like 4 more cop cars pulling up, and they're taking this real seriously. My manager sent me home for the night and told me I didn't have to come in tomorrow. I checked the news the next day and saw that there had been a hit and run nearby with a suspected drunk driver killing a family of 3. The description of the suspect was almost exactly the same as the guy who attacked me. What the hell was this guy's problem? As far as I know, they never found him. I check the news occasionally just to see if he comes up, but I've not seen anything since.